I'd like to welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. My name is Jay Angel, and I have a guy today who's, he's at the top of his game. I just really think anybody who makes the Bassmaster Elite Series, man, you automatically have a certain amount of respect in my book. But I talk to these guys on almost a daily basis, and I've never heard anybody say anything bad about my next guest. And I have none other than Schuyler Hamilton from East Tennessee, which is one of the coolest places in the United States to live if you're a bass fisherman.
You must have, Schuyler. I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me. You need to talk to some more people if you want to hear some bad stuff. I'm sure it's out there. But thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, man, I truly do spend about 3 hours a day on the phone talking to bass fishermen of all levels, just to keep my network strong, and get the absolute best people I can on my podcast.
Right.
But man, I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys. I mean, I would love to go to fish Central Florida.
Yeah.
In February, the St. Johns River, February 10th or 13th. Then 4 days later, you're going to be on the Harris Chain. I mean,
oh yeah,
wow, that's like a lot of shallow water all at once, huh?
Absolutely. We've been to St. John's. This is actually my 6th year. Next year will be my 6th season on the Elite Series. So I think we've been to the St. Johns River 5 times, and so And I fished the Harris Chain a couple times. We had a few opens back in the day before I made the Elite Series, but it's been a while since the Elite Series has been to the Harris Chain. And but like you said, it's hard to find anywhere that time of year. I know we've had a few tournaments outside of Florida early in the year, and they were pretty cold. I enjoy them just because it's different, but it's hard to beat Florida in February. Now, it can still get pretty cold, and if we're coming to town, it probably will. But it's 45 compared to 15 like it's going to be here in a couple of days. So
yeah, and they're going to be spawning then in February, aren't they?
Yeah, it really depends on what the weather does, but for the most part they've always been spawning in the St. Johns River. We've had a few tournaments where it wasn't very good because it seems like there's always a few fish spawning, but some years it's just a lot better than others. And I try to pay attention to the weather down there quite a bit, but it's still, man, if you get a week of warm weather and it's consistent, I think the biggest thing in Florida is the lows at night. And if the lows stay upper 50s, low 60s at night throughout the week, then you're going to have some newer fish, pull up, and you might have a big wave of fish pull up to spawn. And that's when you'll see those giant bags of fish or a really big event where you have, somebody knocking on 100 pounds over 4 days. So, hopefully that's what we get. St. John's it's a tough place. It has them, but a few years back, the hurricanes, I can't remember which one it was, but it destroyed all the grass in Lake George, all the eelgrass and everything. So you've had to really, I didn't have the opportunity to fish there before the eelgrass was killed. So I've always just seen it as a tidal fishery in Florida, tidal river in Florida. And it's just been super. I haven't had any, I don't think I've ever finished really well at St. John's just because it's so like absolutely opposite of anything I've ever learned. And, so I know where to not go this year, and I'm going to try something different. And I really don't have a lot to lose, but it's bad to start out for me on a bad note. I'm going to try not to do that this year.
Wow, I was going to ask you all kinds of questions about the St. John's, but I'd like to move on. How about we talk about the Harris Chain? I've spent quite a few days. My dad used to live right on on a canal on Griffin Lake, so and I fished that lake extensively, and
right.
I caught fish on lipless crankbaits. I caught them jigging, when I caught them, but mostly I caught them on, just a wacky worm.
Right. I think that's a pretty big staple in Florida, wacky rigs and lipless crankbaits and stuff. But I'm actually staying in an Airbnb on Griffin too, so maybe it's close to where your family there stayed. So it's I really enjoy Harris Chain because now the only problem you have there is I know they've been spraying quite a bit of grass in Lake Griffin, so that does throw you for a loop. But Harris Chain it's the only place in Florida that I've seen that really fishes more like a Gunnersville or another grass lake. It has the fish act predictable for me. They're still Florida fish,
Yeah.
but they're not as weird acting as like an Okeechobee fish or a southern Florida fish. So you can actually take techniques that I've learned here fishing, around Alabama grass lakes and take them to Harris Chain and it'll work. Where other places it may not. Other places in Florida it may not.
I never caught a 7-pounder there, but I was fishing with a guy who caught a 10.
Yeah.
And I caught a couple of 5s that day, but we were just running and gunning every time we saw an isolated grass bed that wasn't
absolutely
too big, man. We'd stop there and wham and power fish it with soft plastics. I was wacky rigging. He was throwing something he called a French fry.
Right. Yep.
That's an old
great bait.
Like an old school wacky worm,
Yeah. Great bait. I still keep a few on my boat.
Yeah, he called it the hated worm because the bass hated it.
Oh yeah, they can't stand it. That's for sure. For sure.
That was exciting. That was the first time when I was growing up and I was starting to compete. I thought, northern anglers, it's hard to catch fish up here. It's easy to catch fish down south. Boy, did I ever have that backwards.
Yeah.
Because
I think the Florida fish and what's weird to me is how temperamental. I'm sure you witnessed that. Is how temperamental the Florida fish can be. And what blows my mind is we have Florida strain in like Chickamauga and a few other places, and they still kind of act funny like during a cold front, but they'll still bite. But there's places in Florida if it drops 20 degrees overnight, you're lucky to catch a fish. I mean, you're lucky to get a bite.
Yes,
and it's crazy how that
you're
works.
lucky to catch a tilapia, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure. And Florida has just gotten, if you go any further south, it's gotten crazy. They have the clown night fish. They have,
oh yeah.
I even heard there's arapaima down there now, and
yep,
just crazy things. That's my dad lived down by Miami, and the last place he worked, I was catching tilapia and all kinds of, and different kinds of cichlids.
Oh yeah.
Dad, are there any bass in this lake? He goes, oh yeah, there's lots of bass here. I caught an 8-pounder.
Right.
A subdivision pond, he caught an 8-pounder.
Yeah, that's where the biggest ones live, down there in the ditches and the little ponds and stuff. That's where they get big.
But one thing that the guy told me, his friend who fished some local bass club tournaments, he says one fish a mile.
Yeah,
that's about all I can. And if I'm catching one fish a mile, I'll stay out.
Yeah.
He said, if I'm not, wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to think about how many you're going over in that mile too. It has to be thousands. You know what I'm saying? It has to be 1,000 fish for you to catch one a mile. So it's tough fishing. I mean, everybody has this idea of how amazing Florida fishing is, and I think a lot of that is shiner fishing and live bait fishing, and which you can go to the same places and take a shiner, a wild shiner and catch 50, 60 fish, but you take a plastic worm because I'm not allowed to use shiners.
No, you're not.
And I might get a bite or two. You know what I'm saying? So it's frustrating for me because of how fun it could be, but it's like just this extra challenge where we can't use live bait down there, but everybody else can. But man, you can't beat the weather and stuff. I love it. It's just it's a nice break. It's fun to go down there and get all your equipment set up in the nice warm weather. And after you've been stressing, all winter, or at least I have, trying to get everything accomplished and get down there and get to enjoy the warm, sunny Florida days.
So early season Florida. I've seen places where you can see the bottom and other places where you can't.
Right.
So you're going to be sight fishing and you're going to be fishing by instincts.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're sight fishing in the early season, do you like to use soft plastics or crankbaits or topwaters or?
Yeah. So, everywhere we go, it's a little bit different, but spawning fish, I really like to target spawning fish because they all pretty much can act the same as far as what you can use to catch them. You can use top water popping baits. You can use wacky rigs. There's just a few really productive baits, like a weightless, like a stick bait, like a Guggen baits lunker log or a Cinco or something. You can take that bait and catch spawning fish all across the country.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. As you go north and the
Yeah.
spawn progresses,
Yeah.
how does the way you target the spawning fish change?
Yeah, so really the only thing that changes for me is I'll look at different areas of the lake. So if you have a clear water reservoir like we'll have up north, I'll tend to look at different areas, because they'll spawn a little bit deeper, and they may spawn in a little different type of area, maybe a different type of rock or something. But as far as the baits, I use the same. Only thing I really change is color. So like the lunker log I talked about. In Florida, I may use black and blue or a darker, like a green pumpkin purple. And if I go up north, I may use the baby bass color, which is a little bit lighter, or like a watermelon red or something. Just because I feel like in the clearer water, you don't really want them to know what's going on. So I feel like a watermelon colored bait, it's harder for them to see what it is, so they're more likely to bite it. Down in Florida, they may not even see if you have dark tannic water. I'm sure they can see it, but I feel like a darker bait would probably work the best. But I really just adjust the colors, and I use soft plastics. I throw a lot of jigs. If I don't really know where the fish are actually, if I can't visibly see fish spawning, I'll take a 3/8 ounce jig and just cast it in front of the boat while I'm looking at the bank, and just kind of fish that way and catch deeper spawning fish that you may not be able to see. I really enjoy doing it. If you can't tell, I get excited talking about it.
Oh yeah, I get excited about talking about that too. And because one thing I thought was so cool. My dad and I were going down this one canal, and all of a sudden we came on an area where there must have been lily pads that were 3 feet in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Dad, bear with me, because Dad does not like to use topwater.
Right.
If you want a frog, man, I just sitting there where is that? Doing this with that frog on top of that thing, and it just going like this. And about the 6th one I hit, I hopped it off, so yes.
Yeah.
I told you, Dad. I told you I know how to fish.
Right.
Hey, you don't know how to fish. Yeah. Okay. How much money you been paid to fish, Dad? But at the time, I'd guided for like 10 years. So
yeah. No, but the frog's hard to bait. What's good about the spawn is that's one of the most aggressive times for the fish.
Yes.
And there's times that they won't bite, but it's very slim. If but for the most part, they will hit a topwater bait. They'll hit a frog or a popper or a buzz bait if it's raining or something. They get so angry, and I feel like if there's a fish that I can visibly see that it's not leaving the bed, I feel like that I can make it mad enough at some point to catch it.
Well, there's a sweet spot on every bed that if you can find it, you have to sit there and watch how that fish reacts, because you can pull it across and it's not going to look, and all of a sudden you hit that one spot and it goes.
Yep, absolutely.
Come on, and reel up, get ready.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and you can tell, like you can look at my boat when I come in and tell if I've been sight fishing that day, especially during an event. Because you'll see hundreds of baits, and just because you'll find that one fish, and I may not have used all those baits on all the fish I've caught. I may have used all those baits on one fish to catch it, because it may look at something a little different, a certain color a little different, but I want a different profile. So I'll have stuff through everywhere, and then I'll finally find what that fish will want to react to. And then all the other ones may just bite a green pumpkin Cinco or something. But this one particular fish wanted something. You had to go all the way through your list of baits, and it's pretty fun. It's like an art. It's almost like hunting, or just it's like a whole different aspect of fishing.
And that's one thing that the live scope has done, because now I feel like I don't have a live scope, but I fish for a lot of guys who do have them. And when I'm sitting there watching these fish, I feel like I'm back up north in clear water and watching fish react to my lures.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see them up there, and you have to have good Polaroids and you have to have good eyesight. So, but you can actually see the way, that they cock their body a little bit. Ooh.
Oh yeah. And that's, I use Lowrance's active target, which is the same thing. And it's I've been crappie fishing quite a bit. It's one of my favorite things to do. I like it just as much as bass fishing. I love it. And
crappie fishing is awesome.
I fished Wally Marshall's crappie classic there in Louisiana, and ever since I've just been I've been addicted to it. I've done it a little bit here, but the active target, it's so that's all I've done this past winter, and it's so crazy how close you have to get. I mean, Douglas, I live on Douglas Lake here in East Tennessee, but
Wow.
it's not very dirty, but it's so amazing that some days how close you have to actually get that bait to those crappie. You have to pull it a certain direction, and you can see how they react. You know, they'll turn, and you can tell when you're going to catch one. But you learn so much about how the fish are going to act.
Isn't that awesome when you're taking your jig down to the and all of a sudden you see 3 targets go up like this?
Yep.
But then sometimes they just go,
oh yeah, and then you'll throw an individual fish sometimes, and they'll bite it. And that's what's crazy is how they act. Each fish acts so different. But I've seen where you have to throw. I mean, I've hit fish 8 or 9 times on a cast, and then that 9th cast, it looks like it's the same, but I must have done something a little different where it may be 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right, and you'll catch them. I mean, it's just crazy how specific you have to be. And before active target, you wouldn't catch those fish. I mean, you had to get really lucky.
Okay, we have a question here, Skylar. It's from Cajun Rob. The guy's name is Rob Welsh.
Okay.
He fishes Douglas a lot. And he says it's the favorite technique on Douglas in the spring post spawn.
Okay. Yeah, so he's wanting to know what my favorite technique in post spawn in Douglas is.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So Douglas is weird because of the water fluctuation stuff, and the fish really want to spend their time offshore just because it's more. I feel like they like it better because it's more predictable. Or I don't know if it's more predictable, but they tend to stay offshore. So you'll have fish shallow and stuff, but right during the post spawn, it seems like that's when the best shad spawn stuff happens for us here in East Tennessee is during the spawn and right after the bass are done spawning, the shad will start spawning. So what's going to happen is in the mornings, you're going to have a lot of fish up shallow that have just spawned that are trying to recuperate, that are actually eating on those shad that are spawning. And then after that shad spawn's over with, they'll go out offshore on some of those deeper humps and those points and stuff. So a lot of people will start fishing deep in the mornings that time of year, and they won't do very good because those fish are actually after the shad that are spawning. So one thing I would try is to go out there when you think the bass are almost done spawning. You can go look for some birds up on the bank, and you'll be able to tell where the actual shad are starting to spawn, and that's where a lot of the post spawn fish will be.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. You know, my canned answer for post spawn, I like to use chuggers. I think that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, sure. You cast the chugger and boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. That's my cadence. I don't know if it, but that was back in the days of the Rebel Pop R's, which still work. I used those back in the 70s too.
You probably still got some of the good ones, don't you?
Oh yeah, the ones that look cheap, but they're actually not.
They're they're real good ones. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought they looked cheap because they were blue and white and But yeah, I still have some of those ones I had when I was a boy. I'll never fish with them again.
Right.
Probably just give them to my son when I'm too old.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Also, you have a lake I've never been to, but I love talking about it. Chickamauga.
Yeah.
You're going to be there in April 7th through the 10th.
Yes. Yep.
That sounds like a good time for them to be spawning there in Tennessee.
Absolutely. Yeah. So half of our season, I mean, that's the way the Elite Series is. Half of our season, and even last year, I would say 3/4 of our season, you could fish for spawning fish. And so you have to get pretty good at it to compete with these guys. But Chickamauga, if you gave me 1 month to pick to go to Chickamauga, it would be April because there's so much going on. You'll have fish spawning. You'll have some fish that are offshore that have already spawned, that haven't spawned yet. You'll have fish under boat docks. And you could win doing any of those things. You could win sight fishing. It's a stretch. It's hard to do, but you could win just targeting spawning fish. So, and that time of year on Chickamauga is absolutely incredible. I mean, you can go down there and catch fish however you want, and it's productive. I mean, you can go to places and you can catch fish how you want to catch them, but there's very few places that you can go and catch 20 pounds doing 5 different things. So, and that's Chickamauga in April, and you can do whatever you want. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
You have another place I've fished tournaments at, and I'm excited to see this. The Mississippi River in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, yep.
Have you been there?
I have. We went
Nice.
a few years back. It was one of my first years on the Elite Series. We went, and it was incredible. You're talking about your frog fishing. That's the frog fishing capital. I mean, that place that's all you need.
As a co-angler, that was one of the few places I actually was able to put together a limit.
Yeah,
because I was my boater was casting frogs in the morning.
Yeah,
and he kind of looked back at me and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm wacky rigging." He said, "Okay, please don't poach my fish." I knew exactly what he meant by that because I was a guide and I'd had people do that. I get a blow up and they're throwing right out there, but as a guide, I can't complain about it,
Right.
I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to catch my own fish." I cast it out, and the weeds are about 3 feet below the surface. And man, when you have a slow, I wasn't using a Senko. I was using another brand that just kind of sank very slowly. I was using small hooks because up north you can get away with that.
Yeah.
In fact, you should because it's clear water,
Right.
But man, I caught my 3 real quick, and I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now that unfortunately, I've heard that it's went downhill quite a bit as far as the fishing.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know why. They had an event there last year, and it was pretty bad. I mean, the weights were pretty low. But when I was there, it was absolutely incredible. It was fun. But that's just natural. Places go through ups and downs. So.
But also, it's a river system, and the Mississippi has some incredible floods. Just I'm a guy from Northern Illinois. I fished the Mississippi for, all kinds of species, including bass, but also walleyes, and when I was younger, catfish.
Yeah.
But man, if a big flood comes through, it can take years to recover.
Oh yeah, that's what's neat about where we go is because is that we see the changes in these places, and you have to relearn them. So everybody always complains about, they always go to the same places, same venues, same. But what people don't understand is, there's probably a few on the schedule that pretty similar to how it's been the last 5 or 6 years, but like a La Crosse or a St. John's River, even though we go there every year, it's one somewhere different every year because of how those fisheries change. And it's exciting. It may not appear that way to the outsider that's just watching the show, but for the anglers, it ain't like we just show up and go to where we caught them last year. It don't ever work. And
you're fishing in places like Lake Fork and the Thousand Islands.
Oh yeah, best places in the world.
But they're enormous.
They are.
How can you say that? You could do, like you said, you could do so many different things, but geez, the Thousand Islands is absolutely enormous. And you're going to Lake Oahe, man. I bet you've never been there.
I've been there one time. We actually fished there. Yeah, but the southern end. So we put in at the end, there's no gas stations on the water. So I'll be fishing an area that I've never seen, even though I fished that lake. But that place is so big that I don't think I got within 50 miles of where we're actually taking off from this time. So,
I believe it. And, it's not like like you said, it's not like other places that you fish where you can fuel back up and then go another 75 miles, fuel back up. Geez. Yeah.
I love that place. That was that's a place I would go on like just a vacation or a getaway or something, because I don't know, there's not a whole lot up there, but I just enjoyed the scenery. It's so different. I mean, you got just these big blowing fields of grass, and I don't know, it's something I've never really seen before. I enjoyed. That was 4 or 5 years ago when I was up there last, but it was a fun trip.
Mobridge, South Dakota. That was where Ted Takasaki won the 1998 Professional Walleye Trail Championship. I'll never forget. That was a friend of mine, and he won it, and he was dancing around. It was so exciting to see.
Biggest walleye I ever caught. That's where I caught it at.
I bet you did.
Yeah, caught an 11-pounder there on a crankbait. Sure did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever caught an 11-pounder when I was in my early 20s and in the Air Force. If I caught a big walleye, I ate it.
Yeah, well, I did too, and I actually got. It's a funny story. Is they have, we pay for our fishing license, which up there it was like $70, and so it was expensive. But at the time, my girlfriend, now fiance, she flew in, and the restaurant there would cook our. So if you caught any fish that you wanted to eat, eat. They would cook them for you. You had to clean them, of course, but they would cook them. So I was all about it. I knew this place was amazing walleye fishery and all this stuff. And I knew the regulations. You could only have one over like 20 some inches, and then you could have 4 under. It may have been different than that, but at the time I knew what it was. And so I caught this huge walleye, and I was like, man, we don't have to go anywhere to eat the rest of the week. Like, we can eat this thing all week. Well, I cleaned it and all that stuff and took it to the restaurant, and there was all these guides up there at the bar, and they'd been drinking a little bit, and they were a little upset and that I'd caught this huge walleye. They come up to me and said, "How big was that?" And I said, "This is like right at 10, a little over 10 pounds." And their jaws just dropped, and instantly they were wanting to pick a fight. They said, "Oh, we're going to keep every smallmouth we catch, and we're going to blah, 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 blah. And those are our breeding stock and all this stuff." And I was just like, man, and they
have another cocktail.
Yeah. And I said, "You know what? I paid $70 for my fishing license, buddy. I'm going to keep whatever I'm allowed to keep." And at the time I said, they said, "Well, we're going to keep all the smallmouth we catch tomorrow." I said, "But that's fine." I said, "I don't think I'm going to be coming back here anytime soon." And lo and behold, we're going back. So
yeah, here I am.
So I'm going to avoid that little restaurant.
Okay, this is an interesting one. So out in west in Lake Oahe, how did your tactics that you used over there, your presentations differ than you would in other places? So the western reservoirs, they don't have as much in the way of vegetation, do they?
No, they've got some weird, really tough grass. It's almost like we call it dog fennel here, but it's like a barky type. It's like a real, almost like twigs, but they don't have. And there was some real long stuff that I found one patch of, but there's really not a lot of vegetation there. But what blew my mind is it's primarily smallmouth, which we knew that was what it was going to be. I actually caught a couple largemouth there in practice, which was like, I don't think anybody had ever caught one before, but they like the smallmouth there. So here at our reservoirs, we have a lot of smallmouth too, and they like to stay around the dam area. So in the clear, deeper water around the dam. And so going up there, that's kind of what I figured. We're putting in close to the dam. I'm going to fish around the dam. It has to be where most of the smallmouth are. And after a couple of days of practice, I learned when I looked around and I didn't see anybody else, that probably wasn't the case. So that was what really blew my mind, is that somewhere like that, the smallmouth really don't like that end of the lake. They like it more towards the river section of that.
Wow.
So it's very weird. And,
wow.
Yeah. So after that event, one of my marshals, all of our marshals were locals, of course, or most of them were. And it was a younger kid, and I fished around the dam. And I had a great first day. I was in 20th or something. Second day I didn't do good. But after the event was over and we were allowed to talk, he was like, "Hey, this place is unlike anywhere else you've been. They don't, you go up the river here. You go up the river to catch smallmouth." So it's very strange, because here, if you're looking to target smallmouth for tournaments, you're going to want to fish around the dam for Cherokee and Douglas. You can catch some up the river, but especially Cherokee. So it was a big learning curve. I learned a lot. So thankfully, we're putting in at the river this year.
Man, down there in February in Florida, it can get cold a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
what do you I mean, you can't stop fishing just because it starts raining and it's 40 degrees.
No. So I've been partnered with Gill, luckily, over the past few years, and Gill Fishing. So they make the best outerwear. They have T-shirts. They've got hoodies. They've got beanies. Everything that you could want. The coldest I've ever been has been in Florida, and I've fished in some cold places. And I don't know what it is. It has to be the humidity or something. But, a 38-degree Florida is about like a 10-degree anywhere else.
Well, it's going to be 60 or 70% humidity, just like a 98-degree in Florida, or where I live in Louisiana. Yeah. 98 degrees. It's going to be, 100% humidity in August,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, no, but Gill, they have I've been partnering with them for years, and luckily they have everything they need. They have base layers, they've got whatever you could want, and it's going to last you. That's the biggest thing that I see now with outdoor like foul weather gear. is sure you can have some that may be priced better, but they may not last you a couple washes in the washing machine or maybe 1 year. Gill stuff, like I have the same Yamaha Gill jacket before I was even partnered with them.
Yeah, I want to show them this.
Yeah,
This is I'm a big guy.
yeah.
I'm not tall, but I'm a big guy. And man, they sent me this thing, and growing up in Northern Illinois and hunting and fishing all the time, and look at that.
Oh yeah, fits good. Fits real good. Yeah. So a lot of their actually their select foul. They have a few foul weather suits that are on sale right now on their website. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, you're ready to go, aren't you?
When you're going 70 miles an hour down the lake,
Yeah. Yeah. So and they have a Vortex hood on some of their jackets. I can't tell if that one has it or not, but some of their hoods that they have on their jackets will actually they won't blow, they won't choke you. So they stay stuck to your head, and that's they think about the fishermen too. They have a lot of the expel technology. Blood and stuff runs off of you.
I was wearing this thing in November one year, and it started pouring down rain, and it was still 70 between 70 and 80 degrees around here.
Yeah.
And I wore this thing, and I'm such a big guy, and I didn't sweat with this thing. Yeah. And I was casting the whole time because I'm not a tournament fisherman, but I don't stop fishing either. Well, I was fishing with one,
You're right.
But I don't stop fishing either.
Yeah.
When it starts to rain, I was guiding when I was younger, and also I dabbled in tournaments. And I love when I was up in Northern Illinois, I loved fishing the Illinois River in the middle of winter. If I could get even if I had to bring a mull and start chopping ice to get my boat in, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
That's just how crazy I am about the sport.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this kind of stuff, man. When Katie from Gill sent me this, I called her, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah. She's really good.
Yeah. I didn't even think about having a parka, geez, I'm in Louisiana. What do I need a parka for?
Right.
Well,
yeah, she's a good one, that's for sure. But no, if anybody is watching this and they're interested in anything from Gill, a lot of their really good foul weather gear is on sale for 20% off right now at gillfishing.com. So if anybody's looking for a new rain suit or some foul weather gear, make sure to go there and check it out right now before that sale ends. I know it will soon. And their expel technology is like what they have on their Langland hoodie. And it's really cool stuff. You need to go on there and check it out too. But they're going to have a few new things with that expel technology coming out in the next few weeks. So I'm excited about that too. They're constantly thinking of stuff for the fishermen, and they have a lot of women's stuff on there too. So I know my fiance Christiana, she loves a lot of their clothing. So it's not just rain suits; they have other things too.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff. I can't say enough about them.
Oh yeah, great people.
There we go. Gillfishing.com.
Yep.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the Elite Series?
Yeah.
You're fishing against some of the very most proven anglers in the United States. Because in order to get to, why don't you tell us what it takes to get to the elites?
Yeah, so I qualified for the Elite Series through the Opens, which is the path that 90% of people take. There's a few other ways you can get in, but they're extremely hard. But the Opens is the way. And I fished the Opens I've started fishing the Opens as a professional when I was 16. And I graduated high school a year early just to keep fishing, and which is probably not recommended for I graduated high school, but I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. It was tough, but I felt like it was the only way I could do it to make it work for me. And but I fished the Opens for 4 or 5 years, had one really good season, and qualified for the Elite Series event or for the Elite Series, and so it's basically just you have to get into the Opens, which now it's super tough to even get into the Opens because everybody's wanting to fish them. And but those Opens are extremely tough, and I almost think that a lot of those events are harder because you have locals and you have a lot of professional anglers that are competing. So to do good in those opens, you really have to be at the top of your game. And but no, as after you get to the Elite Series, I mean, these guys are so good. Like you said, they're just, and every year they get better.
Yes, they do.
We have new anglers, and I'm still young. I'm only 27, but we
Wow.
have anglers that are 3 or 4 years younger than me that are just phenomenal.
And
And
then you have to maintain a certain average just to stay into the elites, don't you?
yep, you sure do. And you gotta finish. The top 3 quarters of the field for the most part is where you need to finish every year. And then when you get to your 5th year, they average a few things out, but it's you cannot do bad. You have to do good every year to keep your job. So it's tough, man, but I really like it. It's still a job, but I enjoy doing it.
So most of the guys in the elite series don't have a day job, do they?
And you'll have a few that I know a couple guys that have hardware stores, or they have a farm or something with livestock, or um, might sell real estate. I don't know of any that. I'm sure there's some people that work part-time jobs too in their off season, but um, that's it's and a lot of their wives and stuff will work, like sell real estate, or my fiance, she's a banker, so it's just a team effort. I mean, you get to that point, and to make things work, everything has to line out. If something happens where I need to go get a part-time job, I'm not afraid to do that either. But
Sure.
so
Sure.
it's just
Ooh, we have
no, but you're right. A lot of people own their own businesses too. So
well, I got all excited. I thought we might have some comments, and it was just a bad person got in.
oh no, that ain't good.
I just blocked them. No big deal. It happens. You're on YouTube, it's kind of like being on Facebook.
Right, absolutely.
Crazy people get in once in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, a lot of people have told me, well, those guys, they don't pay for anything, and it's such the best job. Man, those guys work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And they also work all year long. They don't.
No, we don't have. We don't have time. I mean, we have time off, like if you look at it on paper, but the past 3 months, I've done nothing but try to get everything lined up for this coming season, whether it be boat parts, whether it be equipment for my boat, or equipment to use, or reservations. It's never ending. And with COVID stuff, man, everything's so far behind. It's incredibly difficult. So it's very stressful. But like you said, I love it. But you're right. It's 7 days, 365.
But in the wintertime, you're driving around the country, speaking at events, and at now that the sports shows are starting to open up again.
Yep.
It gives pros something else that they can do.
Yeah. So we've had a break from that for the past couple of years, just because of some regulations. But now it's starting to get back to normal. So we're just having to travel and do speaking engagements, and I try to stay home and do a lot of stuff around with the family, but it's still a lot of work. You got to drive and get stuff for the boat, and you got to order things. But no, you're right. It's busy life, that's for sure.
But I think it all is worthwhile when you're zooming across the lake in the morning. You see a little bit of steam coming off the water, and it's not, and the lake's not angry today, and you know.
Yeah, when you get out there and start fishing, it all goes away. Everything that you've had to deal with for the past few months, it goes away pretty quick. So,
particularly when it's a nice day. I like to call the lake angry, but it certainly looks angry sometimes.
Oh yeah, I've seen it pretty angry a couple times.
Yeah, and I've fished Green Bay and Little Bay to Knock and Lake Erie, and
you've been in the good ones, ain't you?
Saginaw Bay. Oh, I've caught some big smallmouth too.
Yeah.
Big smallmouth, and fished with some great people. That's what I like about being an outdoor communicator.
Yeah.
I get to fish with some great people, just like, and you get to fish against some great people.
Right.
And that's why I like talking to you guys, because you just somebody who is as dedicated. And that's what I said in the write up. Somebody who is as dedicated to the sport as you are. I want to talk to you.
Well, I sure appreciate you having me, buddy. This is. I enjoy talking to people like you that are very knowledgeable about this stuff, and
Well, thank you.
I've done a few things in the past that I may or may not have enjoyed too good, but I enjoy speaking with people like yourself, and
Well, thank you.
it means a lot because you feel, you understand a lot of what we go through.
We have another question.
Yeah.
He said, "Is your best advice for a co-angler is that would that be fishing the Bass Opens?"
It depends, what he's really wanting to do. If he's wanting to learn, if his main goal is to learn, the Opens are by far the best way to go, because you can get paired with local, like I said, you can get paired with local anglers or professional anglers. The top guys fish the Opens. I mean, a lot of our Elite Series anglers fish the Opens. So,
oh yeah, this Cajun Rob, he fished with Gerald Swindle.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. Yeah. So, and but the problem that I've seen some co-anglers is if that's you have to figure out what your goal is. If you want to learn, you have to go to that event to learn. You can't be upset if you're not doing very good fishing, but that's the best way, because you're seeing us in our natural element, and you're watching, you're going to learn a lot. But I've had some guys that may have been fishing them for the wrong reasons. And if you're wanting to make money, it's really hard to do that as a co-angler. You can still do okay, but there's a fine line between learning and trying to make money as a co-angler.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Even if you win $2,000, you spend a whole lot more than that.
Absolutely. So, and you'll get a few guys that are just, torqued up, ready to roll, and that's fine. But the whole purpose, I think the whole reason Bassmaster has the co-angler program is for guys that maybe want to become professionals later on, to learn quite a bit. They didn't make it to try to have guys make a living being a co-angler.
Yeah, the only one I know who does that is Gary.
Yeah, there's guys that do that. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do that. And I've had some of my best friends I met fishing the Opens. That were co-anglers, and
camaraderie. Yes.
Oh yeah, I very rarely had any bad instances. There's only been a couple, but no, that's and BFLs are good too. That's a good way, especially if you're not wanting to spend a lot of money or maybe travel very far. BFLs are great because there's a co-angler program with them as well.
Well, that's what I fished, was the BFL, the Great Lakes Division. That's how I got to lacrosse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was exciting. That was exciting.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, I thought I was a great fisherman until I started fishing the BFL.
Yeah.
But I still thought I was a good fisherman, but I thought, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I usually turn that off.
That's fine.
But I thought, I have a lot to learn. It was really a humbling experience.
Well, the BFLs around here, they're stacked. I mean, you've got there's guys that all across the country that are just as good or better than I am, that just have no desire to fish at my level. So they may just fish BFLs, or they may just fish local events. So even BFLs, if that guy, if whoever asked the questions wanting to just learn, BFLs are a great option as well. Like you said, you learned a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. I learned that I have a lot to. The most important thing I learned was I had a lot to learn.
Right.
It was a humbling experience. I had guided for 10 years at that point, and I knew 2 lakes better than most of the guys who fished those lakes. But there's a lot more stuff I needed to learn. And that really opened my eyes. That, I had tunnel vision, and, I really should have been spreading out when I was focusing.
Right.
So do you have any shout outs you'd like to do?
Well, if anybody's interested in, keeping up with my career and stuff, we've had, for the most part of the show, we've had my Instagram down there. It's Pro Fish Schuyler. Instagram, Facebook. I'm a lot more active on Instagram these days. There it is. It's down there now. just type it in on Instagram. You can follow me. I do a lot of videos and stuff, and then you can keep up with me at Bassmaster.com. They do a lot of articles and things like that. But I'm always trying to help when I can, and I'm promoting a lot of products that I believe in, and I'm not one of those guys that just does whatever. So if I tell you something, then I'm using it out there on the water. And but no, I just appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate Gill for getting us in touch, and buddy, I'd love to come back and speak with you some more. I really enjoyed this.
Oh yeah. You will definitely come back. I have about 20 regulars because I do between 3 and 5 podcasts a week, sometimes more if I'm really motivated.
Right.
But it's a lot of work getting all the guests. But just like with you though, it's a labor of love, and I'm doing what I love and loving what I do. So
I appreciate you being flexible with me. That's means a lot. So
I told you, yes, you have to be flexible in order to do this because life happens, man.
It does. It sure does. It's happened quite a bit this year, or 2021 and 2022. It's been happening. So.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for listening or for watching the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. I'm Jay Angel. I was your host, and with very, very special guest, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, Schuyler Hamilton. Oh, we have one more comment. Let's hope it's a real one. Yes. Cajun Rob says that he learned he needed to practice casting a whole lot more.
That's the one thing that separates a lot of people is casting. I can tell you that for a fact. That's a very big key. So.
Yes, I moved down here and saw these guys are casting and they're skipping 20 times underneath the cypress limb.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. And they're using something like a spinnerbait.
Yeah. What you don't see, though, is when that one time when that bait messes up, you see us put our rod down and get a new one out.
Or sometimes it'll hit just a little ripple and go way up. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You just lost a spinnerbait. It's 30 feet underneath there, and now it's stuck.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. I'd like to say good night and thank you very much again, Schuyler. And stick around. I want to talk to you for 2 minutes afterwards.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jay.
You're very